Well, I just want to thank each of you for being with us and wanting to get to know you a little better, hear some more about your story. But Carrie, I'm going to ask you to start if you'll introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Carrie Montgomery. I live in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I am a 2016 Getting Ahead While Getting Out graduate. And now I currently work at the Hot Springs Police Department. But some of my favorite things that I get to do, though, are giving back to the Getting Ahead While Getting Out program. So I met one of the authors in 2019 up in Indianapolis, Phil Duvall. And it was at our big national poverty conference up there. And I told my story, and it really inspired him. It inspired me to meet him. And I came back to Hot Springs after that conference and was just ready to make a difference in my town and give back. And so I became a facilitator. And then in 2020, Phil called me and asked if I wanted to be on his training team. And so now I get to be a consultant for AHA Process, and I get to train facilitators on a national and even sometimes international level on how to facilitate getting ahead while getting out in their own detention centers and prisons in their communities.
Thanks. Courtney, you want to go next?
Hi, I am Courtney Davis Stuffelbein. I live here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I am a graduate 2 times, once in 2018, and then while I was in the Garland County Detention Center, and then I just finished again this April. We graduated, so I was actually able to take it on the outside with different facilitators. It was absolutely amazing once again. And so, I mean, I give back. I volunteer at a program where I graduated from here in Hot Springs, was the Hope Movement, which is part of Lake Point Church. And I've been able to just meet a lot of wonderful people in the community, Carrie being one of them. She's been a mentor of mine as well. And so that's where I'm at.
Great. Thanks. Krista.
Okay, my name is Krista Holiday. I live in Hot Springs as well. I graduated Getting Ahead While Getting Out in 2022. I currently work at Harbor House as a recovery coach. And I think that's the most I give back to my community right now.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's good. That's a good start on there. So I know you all mentioned getting ahead while getting out. Talk to me a little bit about your experience going through that curriculum in that class.
I can start. So I guess the biggest thing I learned was changing, your mindset, and how poverty starts in your childhood, or that poverty mindset with your family. Maybe it's generational. And it's learning how to bridge that gap and learning the tools that you need to be successful, after taking that class, because there's just a lot of things that were not even presented to me in my education in school.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyone else?
So the tools that I found that were most helpful in the Getting Ahead While Getting Out was the different social classes that we have, and the social networking that really makes that difference in bridging that gap, learning how to utilize that tool in your community. And like Courtney had said, to change that mindset of poverty. And so that was the most helpful to me.
Got it. Thanks.
I think one of the biggest aha moments that I had whenever I took the class was that there were more ways than just one to be in poverty, right? We hear poverty and everybody instantly goes to financial. And so we learned about all of our 11 resources. And I quickly realized that I was in poverty in every single one. And, so it's amazing that, if you're lacking in any area of your life, whether it be your social capital or your motivation and integrity, your spiritual resources, obviously your financial resources, if you're lacking in any of those, then you're in some form of poverty.
Yeah, you're correct. As you went through the class and you put together like your 72-hour plan, we always talk about how that's kind of unique for the curriculum. Did you find that helped when you were thinking about those first days?
Most definitely, because I feel like if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So with that being said, to have it on paper, to go over it again and again. I just think that it helps you be successful when the time arises and you need to use those tools, so that you have a timeline to go by.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Like seeing it on paper, having kind of a direction to go about your planning, it was super helpful.
Got it.
The 72-hour plan made all the difference in the world for me. Whenever I took Getting Ahead While Getting Out, that was my 7th arrest. And this was the first time that I had ever made a plan while I was in there. In fact, it was the very first time that I had ever experienced jail programs and, programming and people coming in and spending their time and their resources on us as volunteers. And it was mind-boggling to me that people would want to come into the detention center and love on these little drug addict criminal men and women in there that had ruined their life and had messed up their role in society. We were just so broken in there. And all of these facilitators, all of the volunteers that were coming in really made the difference. We just needed to know that we were capable. But having that 72-hour plan and having people that I could call on the outside that believed that I could do something different, and that pointed out the potential in my life, and I knew that I could trust them and call them, if I got in a bad spot or if I needed help making a decision. That 72-hour plan was crucial. It was critical to my success.
Got it. Thanks. I don't know if any of you want to share, but talk with me about what made you decide to even take the class.
I would have to say I didn't really know what Getting Ahead would consist of, but I had a lieutenant in Garland County Detention Center that pulled me out of my cell when I first arrived at Garland County, and he was like, "You will take every program that we offer." Because he knew who I was before my mess came, and I guess it boggled his mind that I was even in there. So I took what he said, and I didn't take it lightly. I did every program, every class, and I'm so thankful for Miss Starlin, the people that I got to meet in that class, Miss Diane Glover. They are still a part of my life today, and that's going on 5 or 6 years right now.
What inspired me to take with the classes, I really I enjoy learning regardless of like what frame of lifestyle I'm living, and so I enjoy learning, and it was an opportunity to get out of my cell and to learn some things that I didn't know, and it just seemed interesting to me. So I was happy that they even provided it there in Garland County.
So you would, if you were talking with some others, what I think I'm understanding is you'd say it was worth the time.
Yeah.
You would recommend for others who are thinking about it?
Of course. I've taken that class twice. So it was most definitely applicable while I was in jail, and I felt like I needed to retake it after being out of jail, and it was just as applicable every time that I took it. So it is most definitely a great class to get into, especially if you have the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say the second time just recently that I took it, my sister moved here from Colorado, and I was like, well, if you're going to do it, then I might as well take it again. So and so that's what we did.
Well, that's kind of great. And then you have someone to talk over things.
Right.
On there. Well, what other things are happening now for you? Life is moving forward and
Yeah, so I'm a peer recovery support specialist, just like Carrie. I get to work with people that are in not just the early stages of their recovery, but that are, trying to learn the tools to become successful in their recovery lifestyle, so that they can live, in recovery for the remainder of their days, because statistically, it's just those odds are against everyone who is in recovery. So we just want to break those odds. We want to just totally admonish them if at all possible.
Yeah. And Carrie, you've had a number of different opportunities and experiences, and you just, I think, continue to grow in your professional life.
Yes. So I've been giving back to the recovery community for about 7 years now. I've been clean for 8 after 15 years of substance use. And about 9 months after I walked out of the detention center after taking Getting Ahead While Getting Out, I got a phone call. And it was one of the captains at the jail. And she says, Carrie, we've got an opening for a volunteer here. And we really would like for you to come fill that spot. And And I said, well, Captain, you know, that's really cool. And I've never thought about doing something like that. I'll think about it. And she says, I wasn't asking. And so, of course, I said, well, yes, ma'am. When do you need me? And so I started giving back and doing jail programs and volunteering in the jail about 7 years ago. I've never had any struggle getting a job. I did plead guilty to one of my first felonies while I was in there and going through getting ahead while getting out. But I had all the tools that I needed to be successful when I left. And thankfully, we live in a community that is really good at recovery. We've got a really strong recovery community here, and a lot of people that believe that people need more than 1, 2, and 3 chances. Sometimes they need the 7th or the 10th. And so I've been the supervisor at a window factory, and then I resigned from there to become the director of a women's ministry, the ministry that Krista and Courtney went through, the Hope Movement. Krista was one of my girls. Courtney was pre me. I was still at the window factory when she was going through there, but since then we've all become really close and really good friends. And but now I get to work at the Hot Springs Police Department, and the context that I do peer recovery in is just a little bit different than Courtney. The main focus of my job is I'm on the overdose response team. So I am a civilian employee at the police department, but I do have a law enforcement officer as a partner. And so anytime there's an overdose in our city, he and I get called out immediately to wherever the victim is at, either on scene or at the hospital, alive or dead. Because the reality of it is, you know, not everybody makes it through an overdose, but we've got a pretty good percentage of ones that do. So we go out and we talk to the victim, and my partner does everything you'd expect a police officer to do. You know, he's going to ask all the questions, and he wants to figure out who the dealers are. He just wants to disrupt that in our city. But then I get to offer those victims, the witnesses, friends and family, whoever's involved, resources for recovery and for their mental health challenges, or if there's any area of their life where they're under-resourced, then I try to connect them to those resources. In fact, being a peer recovery specialist is very similar to our values when we're doing a getting ahead while getting out class in the jail. You know, I sit down with individuals and I treat them like their own expert, and I have them tell me what they need and what's going to work best for them. And, you know, I let them know that it's between us. You know, I'm not a police officer. It's confidential. But I sit down and I get them to tell me what they need to make their best next steps in their life.
Great. And I have no doubt that all of you are making a difference for others. So thank you for giving back. And you're that person that's experienced it, so you can understand.
Sure.
Yeah. Other things you'd like to share? Anything else you want to talk about as far as your experiences with getting ahead while getting out? Or anything else you've thought about?
Just the amazing relationships that I've been able to attain, you know, through both the classes. And, you know, I don't have a mother anymore. So it's just like all these women that have been able to give to me and pour into me so that I've been able to pour into people around me. It's just been the biggest blessing. And the fact that, like I said, those women are still around, you know, 5, 6 years later.
Yeah. It takes a village.
It does.
It does. Well, again, I just want to thank all of you for talking with me, giving me a little insight into your experiences and what's happening with you now. And I'm hoping that in a year or two, we can follow back up and see what's going on.
Yes, thank you.
And of course. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.